The second pillar of our 5 pillars is we're suggesting as the Hotspots Network that every single Levelling Up bid should include 10% investment into community organisations. Now, this policy pillar changed because I actually had a chat with a local politician in our district about this, and they said, well, we can't, Will, because some of these Levelling Up bids need to have infrastructure funding or buying or building things. But if you read the documents carefully, there is a part about cultural levelling up, and in that it specifically says these words: investment into new, upgraded or protected community hubs, spaces or assets, e.g. village halls, community centres. We're suggesting as Hotspots that every bid you write could include 10% of the funding for those groups. Imagine if 10% of the millions of pounds that we're going to get from central government was ring-fenced straight into the most marginalised groups through these community groups. You would have a ginormous growing tide of money, just like at the start of COVID, when money flooded into that sector. That would make a real difference. And so we're suggesting that 10% of all bids should be done through place-based community development capacity. On that topic, we're going to see Sue from Friendship Cafe and FareShares now talk a little bit about why that money would be needed.
Time Bank is a community organisation that brings people together. We have young people, school children, older people, anyone can come. The allotment is part of a larger organisation, FareShares. We have a number of projects, whether it be art and craft, through woodwork, through trips out, through walks. It is absolutely a community resource, and we want it to be for the community. We've been around for over 20 years, and during that time we have built up relationships with our community, whether it be at the allotment, whether it be our workshop, and those relationships are built on trust. And we want to build a trusted relationship with our partners. When we restarted the allotment after a pause of some time, we were really lucky enough to get some funding through the County Council. That kick-started us to enable us to employ a project worker, and that helped us to really develop the resource so that it's the thriving, wonderful, brilliant communities that you've got at the moment. The biggest challenge really is funding. So in common with many voluntary and community organisations, we're quite a small organisation. We only have the equivalent of 5 members of staff in total. So the biggest challenge is really building that patchwork, and it's a continuous process. Many small community organisations experience the same problems that we've experienced. They've got a lot to give, they can really support their local community, but they struggle for resources to support the core of the organisation. Finding funding to support the office, get insurance, have a finance officer, bills, doesn't get funded, and they're the things that are a real challenge to our sustainability. If we had more resources, we could do much more, and we could do much more for you as well as a partner organisation.
So imagine if you work at some of these organisations quite regularly, you'll be wondering whether you're going to get paid in 6 months because your funding might be off a cliff. It's very hard to think strategically and long term if every 10 minutes you're worried that you can't pay the heating bills. That's true in someone's household, but it's also true in some of these community groups which are delivering real outputs. So those 2 policies, we're going to break into breakout groups, and before that I'll hand back over to Renee to make sure we go to the right places. But we would like people to discuss those 2 policies in those breakout groups. Could we make them real policies? Could we agree today that those 2 things could be involved with every Levelling Up bid? Is that a good idea? If it is, how can we make it work? If there are barriers, can we knock them down so we can do that?
We recognise that people will go into those breakout groups with other things on their minds, and we want to make sure that we hear and capture those as well. So we don't want to funnel and channel every contribution, but we do want to make sure that we have a sense of where people in the room are. I currently chair Lloyds Bank Foundation for England and Wales, and we give away grants of about 20 to 28 million pounds a year to small and medium-sized local charities who are making a difference to people who live with complex social needs. And one of the things we did as a board was to decide that instead of giving project-based money, we give unrestricted grants. Now, I know it's not for everyone, but unrestricted grants meant that we were able to say to people, once we'd done our due diligence, once we built our relationship, once we had trust, and of course, trust has to be given before it's earned, otherwise it's not trust. You can count on it. So there has to be an element of risk in trust. So once we could trust those organizations, we said we believe in what you're doing, and we're at the gritty end of things. So it's about domestic abuse, modern slavery, preventing prisoners reoffending, mental health, care leavers, a whole range of really quite complex needs, homelessness, refugees, and so on. But we say to these organizations, we're giving you money to spend on whatever it is you need to do, to pay the bill, to pay the salary, to paint the room, because we trust what you do and we can see it's doing good. And we know we're not going to get a lot of benefit from it in a halo effect that says, oh, we can count how many people whose lives we've changed. What we're able to do is say we've helped these many charities make this much difference, and we know we're one of several. So I think one of the things we did during COVID was to begin to trust more, not be risky and to have good governance, but to trust. And one of the things when we're looking at some of these policies is, can we take a risk and how much can we trust?